When the executive conference room finally emptied after months of negotiations, Vivian Carter believed the hardest chapter of her career had ended. But a single message from human resources waiting on her phone changed everything before she could even celebrate the achievement she had spent 4 relentless years building. She was informed that her employment had been terminated effective immediately for violating a recently enforced appearance policy. A decision made by the company's newly appointed Chief Operations Director, Selena Brooks, who had never once participated in the billion-dollar partnership Vivian had personally designed from the ground up. Without raising her voice or arguing with security, Vivian calmly packed the framed photograph of her late father, a leather notebook filled with years of strategic ideas, and the silver fountain pen she had used to sign every major agreement throughout her career. While dozens of stunned coworkers watched in complete silence, unwilling to challenge a decision they privately believed was absurd. As the elevator carried her toward the lobby, her phone rang repeatedly until she finally answered, hearing the cheerful voice of international investor Marcus Dalton, who excitedly announced that his delegation had just arrived to finalize the historic agreement everyone had anticipated for months. Vivian quietly explained that she would not be attending the signing because the company had dismissed her only minutes earlier, leaving Marcus speechless before he insisted there had to be some misunderstanding because no sensible organization would remove the architect of a multi-billion-dollar agreement on the very day it was scheduled to be completed. When the elevator doors opened, Marcus rushed toward her in disbelief while senior executives hurried behind him trying to explain the situation. But after listening carefully to every excuse they offered, he announced that his investment group had no intention of moving forward with an organization willing to sacrifice competence for appearances. The executives desperately pleaded for another opportunity to repair the damage. Yet Marcus reminded them that the partnership agreement contained a leadership continuity clause specifically protecting the project if Vivian ever left the company before completion. A provision she had personally insisted on years earlier because she believed strong agreements should never depend entirely on blind trust. As lawyers quickly reviewed the contract and confirmed his interpretation, panic spread throughout the boardroom because the cancellation would immediately erase billions of dollars in projected revenue while investors across the financial market began questioning whether the company had any competent leadership remaining. Instead of celebrating one of the greatest accomplishments of her professional life, Vivian drove home carrying nothing more than a cardboard box and years of unforgettable memories. Yet as she watched the evening sunlight disappear behind the city skyline, she experienced a surprising feeling of peace that had been missing from her life for far too long. During the following week she ignored hundreds of phone calls from executives, reporters, recruiters, and former colleagues, choosing instead to reconnect with family, enjoy simple homemade dinners, and reflect on whether losing the career she had fought so hard to protect might actually become the beginning of something far greater. Nearly 3 weeks later, the chairman of the board, Harold Whitmore, finally reached Vivian after dozens of unanswered calls, admitting that the company's financial position had deteriorated far faster than anyone had predicted and asking if she would meet privately with the directors before the situation became impossible to repair. Vivian listened without interrupting as Harold confessed that Selena had already been removed from her executive position. Several shareholders were demanding resignations, and the failed partnership had triggered a wave of uncertainty that threatened thousands of employees who had no involvement in the disastrous decision. After a long night of reflection, Vivian agreed to attend the emergency board meeting, arriving in the exact same navy blue suit she had been criticized for wearing on the day she was dismissed, silently reminding everyone that the outfit had never been the real problem but merely an excuse used by insecure leadership to exercise authority. Before anyone could begin another apology, she placed a professionally prepared contract on the conference table containing a complete restructuring proposal that required her reinstatement as chief strategy executive, a substantial ownership stake in the company, independent decision-making authority, public acknowledgement of the wrongful termination, and contractual protection for every future innovation she personally created. The board members studied each page in complete silence, exchanging nervous glances as they realized that rejecting her proposal would almost certainly push the company toward collapse, while accepting it meant surrendering privileges they had always assumed could never be challenged by one employee. After hours of discussion, every director reluctantly signed the agreement because the alternatives were even more frightening, and Vivian immediately began rebuilding relationships with international partners while restructuring departments that had suffered from years of poor executive decisions and internal politics. Although the company's recovery demanded most of her attention, Vivian quietly began developing an entirely separate business concept inspired by her own painful experience, working after hours with industrial designers, textile engineers, and experienced fashion consultants to create professional business clothing that could adapt to different workplace expectations without sacrificing elegance, comfort, or personal confidence. The project introduced innovative jackets with interchangeable collars, tailored dresses with adjustable features, and sophisticated skirts capable of changing length discreetly through hidden engineering, allowing professionals to adapt their appearance without constantly replacing expensive wardrobes whenever company policies changed. 6 months later, Vivian invited every employee to a company-wide presentation where executives expected another financial strategy update. But instead she unveiled Elevare, a completely new lifestyle brand dedicated to empowering professionals through intelligent clothing, designed around practicality rather than outdated workplace traditions. Standing confidently before hundreds of employees while wearing one of her own innovative designs, she demonstrated how a single garment could transform effortlessly for different professional environments. Before revealing that her employment agreement legally granted her controlling ownership of the venture, leaving the board astonished as they realized her greatest achievement would soon extend far beyond the company that had once underestimated her. The public launch of Elevare exceeded every expectation, with business magazines, entrepreneurs, and professionals praising the company's practical innovations rather than treating it as just another fashion label. While social media quickly filled with testimonials from women who appreciated clothing designed around confidence instead of arbitrary workplace rules, orders poured in from corporations across North America and Europe. Respected executives voluntarily became brand ambassadors after experiencing the products themselves. And within only a few months, the new venture generated more profit than several long-established divisions of Vivian's original employer combined. As Elevare continued expanding into executive accessories, travel essentials, and professional lifestyle products, the original company slowly regained financial stability through Vivian's strategic leadership, though it never fully recovered the market position it had lost because of the leadership crisis that nearly destroyed everything. During a private meeting one evening, Harold quietly admitted that the greatest mistake the board had ever made was allowing pride to outweigh judgment. And Vivian calmly replied that trust, once broken, could be rebuilt only through consistent actions rather than carefully prepared apologies. Determined to ensure that others would never experience the same injustice she had endured, Vivian established the Elevare Leadership Foundation, an organization dedicated to supporting talented professionals who faced unfair treatment, workplace bias, or career setbacks despite their abilities and integrity. The foundation provided scholarships, executive mentorship programs, business grants, leadership training, and networking opportunities for ambitious individuals, transforming a deeply personal disappointment into a mission that created hope and opportunity for thousands of people striving to build successful careers on merit rather than appearances. Nearly 2 years after the events that had changed her life forever, Selena unexpectedly submitted an application to join one of the foundation's leadership development programs, openly acknowledging the arrogance, poor judgment, and lack of empathy that had influenced her decisions while expressing a sincere desire to rebuild both her character and professional reputation. Vivian deliberately removed herself from the selection process to ensure complete fairness. And although Selena was admitted only as a probationary participant rather than a featured fellow, the opportunity became a powerful reminder that genuine accountability is measured not by punishment alone but by the willingness to learn, change, and earn back trust through consistent actions. Looking back on her remarkable journey, Vivian realized that the greatest victory had never been reclaiming her executive position, negotiating stronger contracts, or building an internationally successful company, but proving that resilience, integrity, and vision could transform even the most painful setback into an opportunity that inspired countless others to pursue excellence without compromising their dignity or values. Please subscribe to our channel and share this video with your friends and family. We create entertaining and inspiring stories for our viewers, and your support helps us continue making great content for you.